Hey everybody, how's it going? So welcome back to Raygate Lake, and this is episode number 27 of Reel Up My Park from scratch. And it's a big one. I mean, not only if you're watching it in real time is this a new year for us, so welcome to 2021. It's also going to be the first time I have ever finished a park, and especially a park on this kind of scale as well, so this is a big deal. Now, I've been doing a few videos over the festive period, so I don't know what order they're going to come out in. I don't know whether the 2020 video has already come out when you see this one, or whether it's going to be the other way around. So I'll say either I hope you enjoyed the 2020 video, or I hope you will enjoy the 2020 video. I still haven't quite decided. I'm doing different parts of the episodes and a few different other things all at the same time because I've got some time off work and everything, so I thought it just makes sense to do it that way. So happy new year, happy festive holidays, or if it is just a random July because you found me, then happy summer or winter if you're in Australia. It's gonna get messy really, couldn't it? I had some real fun, by the way, editing the 2020 video. I didn't realise just how much fun I've had over the last year. And I've noticed that I say a lot of things a lot of the time as well. So I say a lot of, hey, how's it going? Welcome to blah, 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 blah. All my intros are pretty much all the same. And so I've put in a bit of an Easter egg there at the very beginning because I like to take the mick out of myself, right? And then I noticed that there was a bit of a bloopers reel. I say some really stupid things when I'm recording that I don't realise that I say. But when you batch them together, it's actually quite funny. So I've put that in the middle of the video. So anyway, like I say, I hope you've either enjoyed it or you go on to enjoy it, whichever is going to happen. So anyway, to business. Raygate Lake. This is the final one. This is the finishing episode, and I think it's about time. So what we were working in the last episode on this T-Rex down the bottom here. This was the finale. This is the final ride that we need to put in. So now we've just got the snagging list, and I've got my piece of paper and I've got my notes and everything that you guys have been giving me over the last few episodes, just the things that need to be changed throughout the entire park. And so, If you're new to the series, if you've never seen this before, this is Raygate Lake. This is what we've been doing for the last 27 episodes, and this is a labour of love. I mean, it's been 6 months worth of work. It's an ultra-realistic park that we're building based on the UK, and yeah, it's coming along quite nicely. I'm just overwhelmed by how it's gone. So here we go with a bit of a quick tour. So we've got some car parks, and we added a staff car park in the last episode, and then we've also got the coach park down the bottom here. And now we've got the ticket and entrance area at the bottom. Forgive the frame rate, as you can probably imagine. This is a massive park with stupid amounts of detail, so it's definitely starting to struggle. It's definitely coming to an end. So here's our ticket area with our plaza bit and the park start. Come on, get your words together. That's going to be straight on the 2021 blooper reel, isn't it? So here we are at the park entrance, and we've got our tickets, we've got our turnstiles, we've got our park sign and everything at the front at the beginning. And then we come through the turnstile area and we enter into our first part where we've got guest services, gift shop, we've got a couple of restaurants, we've also got our box office as well where you can buy your passes. And then from here the park now splits off into 3 different directions. You can either go down to the right towards the western area, straight on towards the original area that we would have had, or round to the left to go round to the more modern, newer installations of Centurion and Titan and Curse of Drakeford Manor. And so we come around this way. I'm only going to do a real quick tour, just in case you've never seen this before. I think for the final video, it's actually going to be more of a peep level tour, just to show you around the park and just to give you a few rides and everything. So this was the first area we set up then, really. It just contains a few flat rides just to soak up some of the guests and some of the through flow, making sure that we've got some queue sappers, as we like to call them. And then we come round to the log flume area and our western area with our unloved SLC, our log flume area here, and also our stand-up coaster at the back, Outlaw Fury, and then just a couple of restaurants and everything that are sitting in the middle. So just to service this area, making sure that everything is all ready for guests to eat and drink and buy stuff from us. Monetize the area as much as you possibly can. Then we come up to the back end area where we've got Project X, which was a big installation for the park. Probably the first real themed attraction that they did.
Spent some serious money on a wing coaster, and then we come back round this way, and we've got what we lovingly call the hill. So we've got Tapio, which is our 250 subscriber celebration coaster that we put in. So just a reminder that at 1,000 we're going to RMC this bad boy, making sure that we're future-proofing the park. So yeah, this was inspired very much by Hershey Park and the hill at the front entrance. So we've got lots of Tudor buildings, lots of very quintessentially English architecture. And then in the middle, we've got ourselves a bit of a racing theme. So we've got a booster bikes sitting in the middle, a launched version of the booster bike. So there's the launch there. And then we've got a kiddie coaster down this way, dodgems, and just an intense ride just to drag people to the area. It needed something to mop up the queues and everything. And an arcade. And then this is the middle bit that you could have gone to. This is the original part of the park. This would have contained sort of these rides already. These would be the oldest ones, and then their first ever roller coaster that they put in just here. Again, a couple of restaurants, a couple of newer additions and everything, linking up the park, a few game stalls and everything. And then we come over to the Rapids, so Daredevil Falls. So this is our Rapids ride, and this would have been a relatively modern installation, but more towards the earlier side of modern. So we're probably talking the 80s, maybe the 90s. Very much a typical Intamin Rapids ride. So it's got its circular platform, and it's got all of the detailing that you'd expect. So we've done the canal channels and everything all along here, and it's a bit more of an annex kind of attraction. So it's a destination attraction where you would have to leave the main path to come down to, and I wanted to do that purposely. And then we come down this way to our flat ride city that we did. So the park would have had this space available just to throw in loads and loads of different flat rides. So that's what they've done. And then we've got the spinning coaster Spyro that's sitting just here. Again, one of those modern installations that the park would have wanted to put in because they were popular at the time. The spinning coasters concept was starting to just take off, and they thought, oh yeah, we'll have a piece of that pie, thank you. So that's what they did. And then we've got the Curse of Drakeford Manor, which was us showing off the ability to be able to put dark rides in a warehouse and still have it look pretty decent. So that's one of the episodes that you can go back and see. And then, of course, Titan, the headline attraction. This is the RMC T-Rex, the single rail coaster. There isn't one out there at the moment, so it's a bit difficult to make it real when it doesn't exist out there in the world. So yeah, and then we've also worked on the back of house areas. So over in this area, we've got our office complex where all of your different facilities and everything would live. We've got some maintenance guys that are living over here. At the front of the park, we've done the same. We've got some warehouses and everything at the front of the park here. And also over this way then, we've got our hotel. So we put our hotel in. Every single room is decorated. Every single room is detailed. And yes, it was as painstaking as it sounds. But everything is fully detailed. And you can also see, the trouble is because now we're dealing with the game reducing level of detail so that it can render things properly. So when you zoom out, you can just see these ugly paths that live underneath all of the hidden things that I do. So that's what it looks like from down below. Yeah, so all of the rooms are detailed, and then you've also got the pool area and the bar area just here, so you can come and chill out by the pool. And then on the inside, you've then just got all of the reception. You've got a gift shop, you've got a bar area, and a bit of a chill out area. And then underneath here, you've also got an arcade that's through the door there. So, I mean, it looks pretty done already, right? So it looks like, well, what else can you do? It's another example of the LOD thing as well. Let's just go down there. There we go. That's better. So, yeah, it looks already done, right? It looks already finished, but it's not. There's a snagging list, so I'm going to work on that snagging list. The main things to do in this episode really are expanding this car park if I've got the time. I need to finish off the back end of the park. We're missing the exterior fencing and the trees and everything along the outside, so that's going to get done. Snagging list, I've got loads of things around the park that I just need to touch up and do, and then I need to do a nighttime pass, make sure that all the lighting is right, and then you guys get your hands on it. It's time for you to play with the park, time for you to do what you want. I mean, if you want to put a gate coaster in, go ahead, it'll be yours to do it. I'd love to see what you do with it. So anyway, I'm going to crack on because I just waffle. I'm word salading through 2021 already. Look at that. So, oh, the material writes itself. So let's see what this ends up at. Let's go to the first update. Alright, so I'm a couple of hours later and I'm about to move on to do the car park, and I thought, actually, I'm going to stop so I can show you what I've been doing with the work around the outside of the park, just so you can get an idea of how this is all starting to come together. And I wanted to do a little bit of work on the outside of the park, but not too much, knowing full well that we're starting to run into piece count problems and starting to run into performance problems, and knowing that you guys are going to want to load this at the end of phase 3, I need to at least, spare some of your machines, because some of you have struggled with phase 2, and we've added loads in phase 3, so I'm being very, very mindful of balancing what I can add to the park versus what you guys can load from Steam. And so it's really important to remember about the immersive nature of the park. So when you're in the middle of it, when you're in the thick of it, it's really immersive because you look in every direction and you see all of the rest of the park, right? So that's fine. But it's about now incorporating the outside world into the park, so making it feel like there is a world outside. And so I could waste loads and loads of time building towns and building highways and building everything that go through beside the park and everything. But I thought, actually, I was going to take a bit of a lead from Gardaland, in the sense that on the outside perimeter roads, it's actually just fields. There's nothing there. And when I say fields, there's literally no trees, no real detail. It's just grass and a fence on the road. That's literally all it is. So I've kind of taken a little bit of a cue from that to go, actually, this is, you can see from the vista that it's in the middle of nowhere, right? So there are no visible towns. I could have used the city biome, but there are no... There's nothing around, so you are in the middle of nowhere. So it kind of makes sense that actually this wouldn't be built up. It wouldn't be a highway. It wouldn't be anything massive. It would just be a farm or something along those. So I'm just accenting that here. I've thrown down a couple of warehouse buildings that I've just pulled together and made it look a little bit warehousey like, to make it look like this is a working area. It might be owned by the park. It might be owned by a farmer. They share the roadway or something. You can make sense of it yourself, right? So yeah, I just wanted to accent the fact that there is an outside world. But even though you guys are not going to, well, I hope you wouldn't come out into the outside world to see what's been done on the outside, because you'll be busy playing with the inside of the park, right? So I just wanted, though, to make it apparent that it's on the sightline. So when you're looking around, it's apparent that there is an outside world beyond the park. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm trying to achieve. And then all along here, I've just kept that idea of it still being quite open. This obviously goes down to the lake down here, which is off the park limits, off the park boundary. We can't build on this, so can't put any detailing, anything around here. But it just feels like this would be a hill that goes down in the same way that over in the hotel we did the same. It's sort of like treeless, and it's just a nice open lawn for you to go and sit on in the summer. That's what I'm going for here. So I've put all of the fencing and everything around the outside, tidied that up, and I've also added in a new secondary fence, if you like. So this is what I've done here, and I've copied that fence across from the car park, so we've got that consistent design going right the way across. And then it comes down this way as well, so it just gives a bit of a boundary to the park. You can go, actually, everything that we've done in the series is within this boundary, and then we're just making you believe that there's an outside world. So I've then also just thrown a few cluttery stuff around the perimeter road as well. So a few shipping containers and a few recycle bins and everything like that, because that's kind of what happens. Things sometimes just get dumped where there's space, or where it's easier to do. So for example, deliveries may come down here and come up through this way, but they wouldn't take the van up there because they can't get up there, right? So that's kind of what we're going for in that aspect. And then I've just thrown down some vegetation and some detail along here. Again, I haven't gone mad, because this isn't where the focus of the entire series is, right? It just has to be believable at this point. Done the same around here, so we've now put the perimeter fence all the way around, and then I've just put a gate in here so that you can't just wander your way through up into Project X. And I've also then had to change the fencing here, what I didn't realise at the time, and I think I did it deliberately at the time, but it was a stupid, deliberate thing to do. Put the fence all the way around, and actually I've had to break the fence and bring the fences up. So that's all I've done, is I've just put that around Tapio, so the road goes underneath Tapio. Then it comes up this way, and then we come into the back end of Outlaw Fury. And I've now just fixed this as well. So this is almost like it's a separate access road. And the astute amongst you would probably have noticed that I've just created a loop that is closed at one end with a gatehouse, and then it's open to the other end, right? It's not very secure. So what I've put is some bollards along this side so that you can't actually take vehicles down. You would be instructed to go across to the gatehouse if you've got a lorry or whatever. Or it could be that it's pre-arranged that you're coming to this side of the park and you come around this way and the bollards would raise down, would lower down. You don't raise down, do you? You lower down. So that's what I've done there. Just put the bollards in. So I mean, there's not really much to show you on this back of house bit. It's just more cluttering up of the area and the general tidy up around the back. More trees and everything in this area as well, just to make it more believable, and fixing up of the fences. But my next port of call is over here with the car park. So we've already discussed that this car park is now going to be too small for the park that we're trying to run. So what I need to do is extend the car park out slightly. So that's my next port of call. So I'll see you for the next one. Yeah, so I really didn't think this one through. In all of the excitement of the last update, I thought I was going to have way more to say about a car park. And I've now done it. And I'm sort of sitting there thinking, what else is there to say about a car park? I mean, how can I even do an update on just a car park? All I've done is laid down a bit of tarmac and put some lines on the road and changed where the path goes. And that's pretty much it. So, sorry, everybody. Yeah, but we're here. Here we are. We're talking about a car park. So let's talk about a car park. So here it is on the footprint. So it's now about the size that I wanted it to be originally. I just didn't think that Raygate Lake was going to get as big as it is. And so we've already spoken about this in previous episodes, that the principle of the car park should be that the whole thing should take about half of your park. So whatever space you're allowing for rides and attractions and everything, you should have about the same amount of space for car parks, right? So this is kind of what I've done here. We've got this more extended car park, and we've also separated out the coach park, the VIP parking, the disabled parking, some of the hotel parking and everything is all down here. So when you add the two together, it makes up about half of the floor plan that we've got here of the entire park. So in reality, you probably would want a bigger car park again. You would probably want it to be about twice the size that it is now. So that would involve us moving the staff car park down to here, or maybe even down to here, and then extending this car park around. But do you know what? I'm happy with this, because otherwise it's going to involve a lot of terrain changes that are completely unnatural to this biome. So for example, we'd need to flatten all of this down here. You end up with sheer cliff faces, and so I wanted to keep some kind of resemblance of the natural terrain that's going. And likewise this way, if we were to extend the car park out any more this way, we're going to end up with a sheer cliff face down at the end of the actual map as well. So maybe in hindsight, if I were to plan this better going forward, or like if I was to do this again, I'd probably plan it a little bit better. I'd bring the car park down, and it felt when I did the car park originally that it was actually the right size, but it's now more of an appropriate size. So this is what I've done. Nothing really major. I've just flattened off the terrain, painted it using the tarmac terrain paint that you find in the game. I think Studios Pack was the one that we did. And I've just added in all of the extra lines as well. Put those down. Those are just wall pieces sunk into the ground as far as they'll go until they just poke out of the top. Firehouse wall I think I use because they sort of go thin at the top. They're not quite as thick as the panel walls or the stucco walls that we can use. And then they're just at an angle, and then each one of these lines, or the rows if you like, is a building. So the one that's pointing out this way is a building, this is a building, and the vertical, horizontal, whichever way you're looking at it, is also a building as well. And then they just put together, saved as a blueprint, so you can just copy them, paste them easily, and then just paste it down. And so that's pretty much what I've done. I've also just continued on the paving as well. So all of the paving that we did that's separating the staff car park with the normal car park, I've copied all of this down, tidied this all up and carried on all of the planters all along this way. I've also used the mulch here as well, which I didn't do before, but I wanted to use the mulch here and make it a bit more of an official flower bed, if you like. And then carried on the pathway this way, but now you don't tend to have any more flowers or anything like that, because this is not going to be used as a pathway that much, because people would tend to drive their cars, they would park it here, right, and then just walk across the parking lot. And then over this side, I've staggered it still, so we've still got a bit more of a bookend, if you like. So you drive into here, and you'd have somebody somewhere standing around directing traffic, and it would either be continuing down, and then they fill up each row, and then they would go to the next row and to the next row, so they fill from the back forward, and you would normally be directed to that space. So for that reason, that's why you've got these gaps. And I don't really know what the logic and the design principle is behind it, but the car park recommendation or specifications is that if you're supposed to funnel it like this. So this is why we've got straight lines that are going this way, but they meet a diagonal line, and it doesn't feel like it makes sense. But that's a design principle for car parks. It's something to do with aiding vehicle flow and that sort of stuff, and it sort of makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time, because you'd want it to get wider, and especially here, because we're trying to funnel all of this traffic this way into these 4 lanes via 2, so you're creating a bit of a bottleneck here. It just doesn't seem to make sense, but apparently it's a way of sustaining the flow. It's the same principle as having a motorway that's got a 70-mile-an-hour limit, that's always got a traffic jam, but you reduce the speed limit to 50 and you no longer get traffic jams. Seems counterintuitive. Wow. 2021's Rewind is just writing itself, isn't it? It seems counterintuitive to do that, but apparently it works. So we'll stick with it. We'll stick with it as a design principle. I don't quite know what the maths is behind it, but hey, if it works, it works. And so look at that. We managed to talk about a car park. I mean, I had to research that. I had to find something to say, but we managed it. So the next step for me is to do the nighttime stuff. So I'm going to go off and make sure that all the lighting in phase 3 is fit for purpose, and making sure that's all lovely. And then it's literally final touches on my snagging list, and there's only probably 10 or 12 items on that list that I'm going to need to do. So I'll see you at night time. All right, so welcome to Raygate After Dark. And if it's after dark, does that mean I get to swear? No, I'm not going to. Oh, you got all excited then, didn't you, you cheeky little scamps? So yeah, Raygate After Dark, welcome aboard. So I've done quite a lot of work actually on the lighting aspect of this, just like I did in the last phase 2 stuff. We did a night pass, and I made sure that all of the lighting was right. And so I've done my best that I can with this one, with the graphics that I've got. So let me explain that. So these kind of areas here outside the Curse of Drakeford Manor and outside of Titan would probably be floodlit, and those floodlights would be attached to high points. So I've noticed this when I've gone to other parks. You either have actual designated floodlights that are posted around somewhere, and then they're flooding the area with light, hence the reason why they're called floodlights. And you tend to have this like real high level lighting that's spread far and wide. You know, it spreads far and wide. In Planet Coaster we can't quite do that because of the way the lighting engine works. So what you can do is you can hide a load of the area lights underneath the ground and give the impression of it flooding the area with light. But as you saw in the other ones, the more that you add into an area that's already lit, eventually you end up with what I call light fighting. And it's where you get graphic glitches based on the fact that you're using too many light sources and too many objects within an area. And so it sort of flickers. And you then just lose that sense of realism, and you just lose that warmness that the light gives. So these areas outside Curse of Drakeford Manor and also outside Titan, they would be floodlit, and those floodlights wouldn't necessarily be standalone lights. They'd be attached to high points like the supports here, which I've tried to achieve, but obviously these aren't throwing enough light to sit on the ground. So you also tend to find as well that they would sit at the high points of buildings. So I've done that here above Drakeford Manor. So I've just added in a couple of floodlights, and again, we don't have single floodlights. We've only got the stuff that comes in the studio packs, which comes in a row of 4 that can be attached to a wall, or 2 that's standing on the ground. So this is just sunk into a wall. That's all I've done there. And then elsewhere, we don't really have tall enough buildings to actually hang floodlights on. So when I've been looking at the lighting of other theme parks, it tends to be that the lighting of the area actually comes from off-spill from inside buildings and off-spill from rides and things. So where you have like buildings that have got frontages of windows and everything, you have light that spills out of the front of those buildings and it lights the area around, and you tend to get this like very dull, low-level lighting that is just enough to break the darkness, but it's still a twilight. So I've tried to achieve that where I can. So just like all of the other updates, what I've done is I've added in that low-level lighting inside the buildings. So all of the buildings now look like they are actually lit in this sort of like grey, unloved lighting. And I've done the same outside the front of Curse of Drakeford Manor as well, where the light would be throwing. And just like before, I've tried to spot where there's colour that would be throwing as part of the light. So, for example, here, the sign from the Curse of Drakeford Manor would be throwing the orange, the purple and the red onto the ground. So that's what I've done here. The light's reflecting off of the sign and it's hitting down here. Probably a bit too extreme, but it needs to be pronounced a little bit just so you can see it. It's more subtle elsewhere where I've done it. And then the same here. So we've got the three colours that are sitting here with these lights. So we've got the orange. Actually, it's only two colours. It's just three lights. So we've got the orange and the green. And so that's what I've done here. I've made sure that the orange is throwing really subtly on the outside. And then the green is in the middle. But because the green's a brighter colour, it tends to overtake that area. So the orange is much more subtle, but it's still there. And then you've got the slight accent of the purple because the light would be coming up and throwing off. Now, the throwing of the light from buildings and everything is something that I like to include because it sort of builds in that realism. But you need to use it carefully because if you go too extreme, like these things wouldn't throw a lot of colour. And they're not light sources in their own right. You just have to know that when a white light hits a colour, it will refract some kind of colour back into the environment around, and then it depends on the way that it's going as to the way that the light waves are going. Are they light waves? They are, aren't they? Yeah. So the way the light's going anyway would land somewhere, and you just need to account for that. That's what I'm trying to say. Really, really badly. And I've done the same. I've done the same here. So the actual inside of the games unit here is yellow. So the light that's throwing outside has got a yellowish tint to it. And then on the far out reaches, the four corners, you've got the purple light being thrown as well. But again, this one's really, really subtle because the main primary colour here would be white, right? Because you're using white light inside the actual games unit. And same here, slight red being thrown around, and then the pink from the actual countertop, but not so much here because it's not shiny. It's not a shiny surface. It's going onto it. It's a dull surface. And then here it's the same principle. So we're using in these shops this side pink and red quite a lot. So I've just thrown some pink and red onto the actual ground in addition to the normal white light that would be around. And then over here we use a lot of orange. So Monsieur Frita has got a lot of orange, so does the Hot Dog Squad, and so does the Pip Shot Smoothie place. And because this uses a lot of orange, I've thrown a lot more orange down onto the ground. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for, that sort of the eye, the way that it hits the eye. And then over here, similar thing. You can't really see it that much, but the yellow from within this light source is thrown out because it would be traveling. It would travel. Oh, this is proper word salad. And then you've got the white light as well, because that would be almost like a luminescent light. Fluorescent lamps and everything that are on the ceiling. In the station, exactly the same thing. It's fluorescent lighting, so it's that horrible flooding colour that you get, and so that's why I've put that in here. And it's just a row of those area lights that are sunk underneath things that you just can't see them. But when they light up, it lights everything up, and it gives that, like, floods the area with the lighting. And then over to Titan's sign, exactly the same principle, but I wanted to throw the colour wider, and I had to look at other signs that I've seen of this nature that set the precedent as to how the light is actually thrown. There's a couple of signs that I've seen of varying different colours, one that was red, one that was blue, one that was yellow, and it kind of gave me a feel for how far out the light travels. So that's what I've done here. The actual sign itself contains the main lights, and that's why you've got these really strong light sources. So you've got pink and you've got the orange, or it's purple, and the orange. But then what I've done is I've accented those even further out by, again, using a grid of the lights sunk into the ground. But they're coloured a lot darker, so it's not taking away from the strength of the initial lights. It's just using it to accent and extend that further light. So that's what I'm doing there. Coming down to the flat ride area, the same principle here. This would just be your standard typical light being thrown out of shops. So there's not much really here that you can do, and because it's hitting wood absorbs a lot of light, and especially when it's painted wood, so you're not going to get as much throwback from the light, and that's why it's a little bit dull around the outside compared to the others, because it's being absorbed a little bit by the wood. And then we come over to the vending machines. Similar principle, there would still be light throw from these, and it's all white light, so I've put those in, but it's a really dull light this time because they're not bright lights. And with these machines, like the games and everything, they'd probably be flashing colours. I didn't want to try and replicate that because the actual machines in the game aren't flashing, and it wouldn't make sense to have the flashing lights on the ground when this isn't causing it. So I've just left it as it is, but yeah, you would probably see some kind of screen reflection or screen light reflection that's on the ground here. Think of watching a TV in a dark room and how it alters the light on the walls and everything around you. That's kind of the effect that you would get here, but just in the interests of these not actually moving, I've just kept it static as well. So, and then lastly, coming over to Daredevil Rapids, and this one is a slightly blue tinted light, even though it doesn't look like it because it looks a little bit orange, and that's because we've got the western lights that are creating that orange glow. But this is a slightly blue tinted light because the whole surface that's reflecting this light is this light blue. So even though we've just said that wood would absorb light, because this is being thrown onto a lighter colour, you're going to have a slightly more light refraction coming off. So that's why there's a slight, and I mean slight, blue tint to the actual light that's on the floor, just to reflect the fact that the wall is actually blue. So this is what the whole thing looks like when it's lit up at night. Looking really good, actually. Looking good. And then this is how the whole park looks at night. I mean, yeah, it just looks like a park, right? It looks how it should. Really chuffed. So this is the homeward stretch now. This is going to be the last one. This is time to tackle my snagging list, and this is a bit emotional now because it's like, this is it. This is the finishing of the park, and I don't know how to feel. Let's just get there, shall we? I'll see you in a bit. Alright then, you lot. So after 6 months, 27 episodes, so much word salad, and so many hours that you guys have literally watched this for, we can finally stand at the entrance of Raygate Lake and look upon it as a fully completed operating park. This is a big moment, and I'm dragging out the dramatics. So, it's done. I mean, it's as done as it's ever going to get. There's just one thing that I'm going to talk about in a moment that I want you guys to do as a community. But in terms of building and tweaking and everything, I'm done. And I was watching some TED Talks and everything over Christmas, and there were a couple that were brilliant, as you would always expect. And there was one particular quote that really stood out to me, and it was, "In the seek of perfection, you forget to recognise when you're done." It's really, really important for Raygate Lake. I could go around the park so many times, in fact I still do, and make tweaks and make changes and do little things here and there, things that I'm still not quite happy with, things that could be better, things that, and I'm talking like really minor tweaks, and I'm forgetting to realise that we're done, right? It's time to recognise that Raygate Lake is finished and celebrate the fact that we got here. This is the first park I have ever completed. So the next episode is obviously the tour. So episode 28 will be the tour, the release to the workshop. I haven't put the park maps in yet, and I haven't put any of the adverts in because I want you guys to get involved with that, to say thank you. I want your artwork to appear in the park. So if you want to make an advert for annual passes, for events, for rides, for whatever, I would love to be able to include those in Raygate Lake to say thank you to you lot. I've put a post out on the Planet Coaster Nation Facebook page where you can leave your JPEGs and your images and everything so that I can put it into game. Just be aware that if you are going to design something, all of the billboards that I'm using for adverts are used vertically, so your image has to be horizontal, and I'm going to need that by the end of this weekend, so the first week of January, so that I can put it into the park ready for the tour. But yeah, please send those through because I really would love to see your artwork. Obviously keep them clean, keep them fresh. They don't even need to be good. I just want to put them in, right? Because I want to say thank you to you guys. So let me show you what's done. Let me show you the park. I'm not going to go into too much depth because, like I said, we're doing the full tour. So just a few things that I've tweaked and touched up. There was a bit of fencing problem around the outside. I just needed to fix. They weren't quite aligned to the new terrain that I'd put in this area, so I've just fixed those bit of fences. Realised that Cursor Drakeford Manor didn't have a disabled sign for its entrance. It had a disabled entrance, but because it's got the stairs going up into the actual building, quite a serious thing to not have a disabled entrance sign. So that's now been fixed, that's now in. And on the subject of Cursor Drakeford Manor, I don't know if anybody ever noticed it, but inside here there was a wall that was sticking through the ceiling and had been for quite some time. So yeah, I fixed that. That's no longer the case. There's just a few minor touch-up details that I've done around Titan, particularly in the maintenance area, and some just tidying up stuff. I've added in some drains and everything that they weren't here. I'm a little bit nervous about having the drains here actually because it's got two supports. I don't know if there would be a drain there because of the weakness that's caused by the hollowing out of the ground, but it's fine. I've done some touching up in the flat ride areas as well. Just some real minor tweaks, nothing, like I say, I'm going to save showing you the full details and everything when I do the actual tour. Over in the Rapids, Dan Thorpe has got a park that's just been released now, Oaken Hills, and he's got a Rapids ride in there that's absolutely amazing. And I tried my hardest to get those runners, you know, those round little runners, and he's kindly put it on the workshop. So even though the rafts are just going through them, he kindly put it on the workshop for us. So I've taken that, and Dan, if you are watching, thank you. You've got your thank you sign. Oh, it's actually taken the text away. That was your thank you sign. I'll make sure there's text in there to say thank you, just like all of the other blueprints that we've put into the park. Some other little minor tweaks around the outside, nothing major, just a few like touchy up type of stuff. And then over on the hill, I've just realigned some of the stairs just to sort of make them a bit more stairsy. Some of them were just not quite aligned properly. Few touches up in the Project X shop. There was just some misaligned stuff that I wasn't quite happy with on the shelves, and the clothes racks and everything weren't quite right, so I fixed that. They're now looking way better than they were. Over on Outlaw Fury, I don't think I've changed anything. Everything was sort of happy over here. I had some misaligning going on inside the station of the SLC. What do we call it? Gold Rush. Just some like the lights and everything weren't quite right, so I've just tweaked those. Again, it's just these real fine minor tweaks that you guys probably wouldn't even notice, and that's when I was sat there and said, no, I need to recognise that this is done, because I could do this forever. Where else did I go? Oh, over in ETip, there's some stuff in here that I needed to just again realign, and it was all the stuff that was on here, and just the positioning of these vending machines changed ever so slightly. Like I say, it's like ridiculously small changes that I bet if I hadn't have made, no one would have noticed. There is one big change though. I say big change, it's not like it's a massive like reprofiling or anything, but Coastal Monkey Studios mentioned, so if you haven't checked out his stuff, please do. Gabrielle pointed out that there was no path coming down from the hotel. This was like a flower bank, and it meant that people would have to have walked on the roundabout. So I fixed that. I've now put the pathway in here, so that's now where it should be. There were some missing lights in the car park that I've now put back into place, and there were some missing lights that I noticed elsewhere, mainly between Outlaw Fury and Project X. There were some missing path lights that I've now just put in. There were a couple of missing signs around the booster bikes, so I've now put those in. So a couple of these danger keep out signs, they were missing, so they are now in. And that is pretty much everything that's done. I mean, like I say, there's loads and loads of little tweaks that I've made. Like, I've gone around the park 5 or 6 times adjusting loads of stuff, and I don't want to bore you with all of that stuff that I've done, because it is boring, right? So let's just come back out to full park again. So we stood at the entrance, and look, this is Raygate Lake, guys. This is what we've done. This is what we've achieved. And we've done this together. Like, if it hadn't been for you guys constantly watching this series, this park would have been abandoned, just like we abandoned Roars and Claws in Planet Zoo. This is a big moment. Like, this is heartwarming for me. It sounds really stupid, doesn't it? Right? It's just a park. It's just a game. It's just a video going out on YouTube, but it's not. This is an achievement. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Like, what else can I say other than thank you for coming along for the ride? Hey, coming along for the ride. Got to get a cheesy pun in there, right? Yeah, thank you for coming along for the ride. Thank you for coming along for this. You really do genuinely make this series. So if you have liked it, you know what to do. Leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you don't already, because we've got a new project coming. I'm going to do a smaller Planet Coaster project, which is like still British seaside type stuff. I want to do a smaller project that's not so intense, a couple of coasters, a couple of rides, that sort of thing, before taking on a bigger project, a bigger Planet Coaster project on the same scale or similar scale as Raygate Lake. So I want to do another one, and I also want to do some other games as well, so I can film a series of one of the other games I did, Try Not to Suck At. When I did Airport CEO, I was able to film the entire series in 3 days solid, because you just film the half-hour episodes in succession to each other and then just publish them. So I might take a bit of a moment to film a couple of those series so that I can run those alongside another Planet Coaster series, so that you guys aren't waiting around for a new series. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm literally like telling you what's going on. So the next episode then is the tour. It's the big one. It's the what do the guests see. So thank you so much for coming along today. Thank you for sticking to the end. And guys, please keep safe. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye bye.